going back to our viewers that are watching, people who own their brands, how can they make their brands iconic among their own consumers?
Well, Tip, first you need people like me.
That's it.
Timothy A. Williams.
I think they've got to do a couple of things for sure. One, laser focus in on their meaning, and this is going to take really delving into their purpose, their vision, all those conversations that you have maybe once a year with your company.
Yeah.
You have to know what that is. And then you also have to look at the world around you, and that means considering demographics and thinking about the consumer.
Yes.
How are they going to receive this?
I think jumping off of that, making sure that when you're looking at what your company's vision is and your purpose and that meaning and demographics, not just making it that once a year conversation and not assuming that you can sit down for a few hours or even a couple of days and just hammer it out. You know, this is our meaning, this is our purpose.
Yeah.
Now let's build everything off of that.
It's not a memo. It's
yes.
a core thing.
It I think has to be done over time and with focus too. I think sitting down with all of the shareholders, as many shareholders as possible in a company, talking to different team members, talking to vendors, figuring out that meaning and talking to customers and you know, maybe there is meaning associated with your product or service that you didn't even know about. And without understanding that, not only can you not evolve what you do, but how are you ever going to market it in a meaningful way if you can't clearly state what that meaning is and
Right.
know how it's going to affect different shareholders.
So the article actually cites 4 different things that they recommend, which they call the iconic relevance matrix, which is basically the stuff we've just been talking about. First thing is protect your signature element. Whatever your signature element is, make sure that that doesn't get damaged or tarnished or disrupted per se. Next thing is innovate benefits. So make sure that the reasons that people use your products are getting better and better without actually changing your product. How can you actually help your customers? Things that we were just saying. Evolve your story and your heritage. Evolve, again, making,
It's the word of the day.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then the last one
This
is...
Seafoam session is brought to you by the word evolve.
That's E-V-O. And the last one is reimagine design. And I think what they mean by that mostly is, things change over time, and you're going to have to change the way you present your product, but you need to make sure that that doesn't cover up what your product is and what it does.
I think like as you start building and as how your product or service, begins to build or help build the brand, I think what companies should do is kind of take a futuristic look. And look at it more than just even the people, but look at the economy. Like where are we going? And then how does your brand position itself within where we're going? Do you feel like within a certain period of time that your brand might fall off if you don't make changes? Okay, well, what changes need to be made leading up to that point of time? How can you make sure that they're not so assertive to the point where it just throws your brand off?
Well, and I mean, look at Toys R Us. What happened to them?
I'm still sad about that picture with the giraffe.
Yeah, they didn't pivot whenever internet was a thing, when Amazon became a thing, and they held on, but ultimately they lost.
Well, and I think looking to the future and asking the question, a year from now, 3 years from now, 5, 10 years from now, how can I best create that meaning for a customer in those time periods? So, Toys R Us 20 years ago, the meaning that was created, the purpose there was a one-stop haven for toys, whether it was birthdays or holidays. This is where you go to buy kids' toys.
Yep.
You can answer that same question when you talk about the future. So as soon as the internet became as prevalent and relevant as it is today, Toys R Us could have been saying, how can we still be the one-stop haven
Yeah.
for toys, but in a changing environment around
They
us?
could have done so much with, gosh, games that kids could come to
Yeah.
on their site, you know. There were opportunities.
Well, and again, using iPhone again, but it's true. Same thing happened with BlackBerry. They didn't think they needed to evolve when the iPhone came out. That ultimately cost them the company.
Well, I think the question, the meaning there would be for BlackBerry, if in 1999, I don't know, pick a date that BlackBerry was big, might have been later than that. If that purpose was creating a device that would allow people to get more done more quickly in more places, that's BlackBerry's purpose at the time. What they failed to maybe do was look into the future a little bit and say, okay, how can we continue to be that company and serve that purpose as things around us change? As technology gets better and better, maybe people also want to stay connected with their friends and family. Or,
They want to play a game when they're bored.
right.
Sure.
It becomes just a matter of the question has to stay the same. The purpose has to stay the same. How you answer the question and how you solve the pain point or the issue that your customers are having or are looking for a solution for, that's what changes. The question, though, the purpose, that doesn't change throughout time.
Yeah, for sure.
I think of some iconic companies, and I'm thinking of like which network, TV network has the peacock? Is that NBC?
NBC.
Yeah, I've seen.
Not
obviously,
iconic
They're not
enough.
that iconic, but I've seen, I guess, commercials or things on the news where they go through all of their peacock logos. And yeah, the logo and the sound of it has changed decade by decade. You can tell which was the peacock from the 70s, right? It's all orange and yellow and ugly green. But it's still NBC, it's still the peacock, and they still have the same mission. And I think some media companies and newspaper companies have been able to make the transition to a digital world better than others.
Well, and I think that's a cool point because the purpose and meaning behind a company, because that radiates out into everything from the product or service you offer to the people you hire to the branding. I think branding is something that some companies have evolved really well and some haven't. They, as a company, they may have evolved the types of people they hire or the product or service, but if you don't have the branding and the marketing and the messaging to go with it, nobody will ever know that you've evolved.
Yeah. Sure.
Branding and marketing, that's how you tell the rest of the world what your purpose and what you're innovating on. That's it. Without that, it just stays in-house.
Imagine if you just went to the store, we're going to get a Coke, and then suddenly it's like something completely different.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, that wraps up episode 5 of Seafoam Sessions. If you enjoyed hanging out with us, hit the like button located underneath or above wherever you're watching this video or podcast. Also, leave us a comment with what you thought of episode 5 of Seafoam Sessions, along with any suggestions you have for next month's episode. Thanks for watching.
I feel refreshed, energized, and very, very smart.
Wow, guys,
Very
great
smart.
conversation. That was awesome.
It really was
You
awesome.
guys were amazed by my
Mind
enlightened
blown.
insights.
All right, ready, set,